142 counts, 24 counts of murder in the first degree, 116 counts of criminal attempt to commit first-degree murder, 1 count of a sentence enhancer, which is a crime of violence, 1 count Class 4 felony, possession of an explosive device.
An accounting of the horrific crime of 2 weeks ago. This is Mean Street. I'm Michael Casey, and we're going to talk about this. Of course, this is the reading of the counts to James Holmes, who's the alleged gunman in the Colorado shooting.
Right.
Tell us a little bit what this means. I mean, no big surprises, of course, that we got to this point.
Yeah,
where does it go from here?
Right, no big surprises. I mean, what you saw today was basically Colorado state prosecutors throwing the book at him, as we figured that they would. The most significant counts, I think, are the first-degree murder counts. There are 24 of those. They're basically 2 for every victim that was killed, and those are really going to be the ones at play here. But what's at stake is very simple. I mean, regardless of what they would have charged him with today, it's either going to be life in prison or some sort of insanity defense that may work out, which would probably keep him locked up for a long time, or the death penalty.
Right.
for this
Which
guy.
is rare in Colorado, apparently.
Very rare in Colorado. It's still on the books.
Right.
States have been getting away with getting rid of the death penalty, actually, kind of slowly, but it's still on the books in Colorado. And they haven't used it in a while, but they could.
But this is going to be a charged case, of course. There's a lot of emotions associated with such a horrific crime, and one could imagine that there'll be a bit of a public outcry and people demanding that they be enforced in this case. How does that play out, perhaps, in the courtroom? Do you think it has an influence?
I think you're right. I mean, well, first of all, prosecutors have to decide whether or not they're going to bring the death penalty, whether or not they're going to seek that. They haven't done that yet. I think what they do typically, they won't say this, but I think they take the temperature of sort of the atmosphere and what's the public, right. And I would imagine that there's going to be a significant outcry for him to get the death penalty. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. And from there, we'll see what his defenses are. I don't think there are very many for him, but he's going to make a few.
There seems very few doubts that he is indeed the man. So the insanity plea, one would expect being a pretty prominent one, and certainly the way he's behaved in court does lend itself to the view that he could be able to make such a claim.
Yeah,
right?
you know, the interesting thing about the insanity defense is that it's a tough one to make. You've really got to show that you're really out of touch with reality in order for that to fly. And one of the things that's, despite that he is showing up with his red hair and you know, he's has got vacant stare in his eyes. Yeah, exactly. Cutting against that is this evidence that's coming out that this whole thing was very premeditated.
Premeditated, yeah.
You know, so these notebooks that he may have sent to his psychologist, and which apparently give out in great detail what he was planning, that cuts against just a person who's completely insane just stringing this thing together. So. Yeah. They're going to be back and forth on that.
But actually, as a law reporter, you've obviously dealt with this for some time. I mean, it always seems to me interesting, the notion of an insanity plea and how it might be difficult, because in fact, the act of killing this many people in this environment almost is by definition insane. I mean, how does that get talked through?
That's exactly right. But the way it typically works in states that allow the insanity defense, and I think most of them do, is that it's not just enough to say, oh, well, look, this is crazy by any definition. Shooting up a movie theater is crazy. It has to be more like he didn't understand fundamental things about reality. He couldn't tell, not only did he not know right from wrong, he doesn't understand the concept of right and wrong. So he has to be really, really out there for this to fly.
What's the next step in this case then?
Well, the next step, he's been charged now, and I assume he'll be held, he'll be locked up for the duration of this. Prosecutors and defense will trade documents, argue over evidence. The death penalty stuff will happen go There will be some motions that go back and forth. But I would imagine, that this will be set for trial, and we may see it go to trial. We may see some sort of plea ahead of that time. So we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, Ashby. Well, thanks very much for your time.